"Get out! You don't belong here." That's what the receptionist said. Not "good morning." Not "can I help you find the conference room?" Not even a glance at the name she was holding on the visitor list. Just two words, sharp, cold, and dripping with entitlement. She didn't ask who the woman was. Didn't care why she was there. Didn't see the tailored suit, the calm confidence, or the quiet power that didn't need to speak to be felt. All she saw was a black woman walking in alone. And in her mind, that meant unimportant, unwelcome, unworthy. But what she didn't know? That woman didn't need to belong there. She owned it. And in just 10 minutes, the entire board, every last suit sitting upstairs, would be scrambling to explain why they'd just been fired by the very woman they refused to let in. But before we dive deeper, what country are you watching from? Drop it in the comments below. We love seeing how far these stories reach. And if you're watching this and you still haven't subscribed, now is the perfect moment to hit that subscribe button. Because here, we don't just tell stories. We expose the ones that were meant to be silenced. She arrived early. Her name was Jordan Miles, 47 years old. Elegant, disciplined, brilliant. A self-made titan who turned her small research initiative into a global sustainability empire now valued in the hundreds of millions. She wasn't flashy. She wasn't loud. She moved with the ease of someone who didn't need to announce herself because her results did. That morning, she walked through the glass doors of a towering corporate building she would soon own. The air inside was crisp with controlled prestige leather chairs, glass partitions, minimalist decor designed to whisper wealth. Jordan blended into it effortlessly, not as a visitor, but as someone returning to claim what was already hers. Her heels tapped quietly against the polished floor. She wore a custom, slate gray suit tailored to perfection. Subtle diamond studs. Minimalist designer heels. Her hair pulled into a sleek low bun framed a face that held the kind of calm that made others nervous. Not arrogant, just unshakably certain. She wasn't here to take a seat at the table. She owned the table. And the chairs. And the floor they stood on. But to the woman behind the front desk, none of that mattered. She saw a black woman walking in alone. No name tag, no assistant, no briefcase flaunted as a badge of worth. And in that instant, just by existing in that space, Jordan was categorized. Dismissed before a word was spoken. Judged before credentials were considered. Unseen in the most deliberate way. Around her, the lobby buzzed with quiet activity men in suits chatting over coffee. Interns rushing with tablets, executives nodding to one another in recognition. Jordan, however, received no nod, no glance of acknowledgement, only a tight jaw and narrowed eyes. The dismissal was swift, public, pointed. Heads turned as the air shifted. Curiosity bloomed like wildfire because when a black woman is told to leave a place of power, the crowd always watches, some with discomfort, some with approval, and others with silent satisfaction. A low chuckle echoed from the corner. A whisper trailed behind her like smoke. She must be lost. Jordan didn't flinch. She stood perfectly still, absorbing the weight of the insult, the layers of history behind it, the countless rooms where black women had been silenced or ignored. Then, without a word, she turned and walked back out the same doors she entered. Not with her head down, not with hesitation, but with intention, with fire, because what they didn't realize, she wasn't leaving in defeat. She was stepping outside to take off the gloves. And in exactly 10 minutes, that building's foundation would shake. Upstairs, Behind double glass doors trimmed in brushed gold, a boardroom buzzed with self-importance. 12 executives sat around a polished mahogany table that shimmered under designer pendant lights, all white. 11 men in finely tailored suits, cufflinks flashing. One woman blending in through practiced silence. They sipped single-origin espresso from porcelain cups, checked their watches, scrolled through emails, and murmured about upcoming market forecasts. They were expecting someone. A new name had been floating across their inboxes for weeks. Majority investor pending final acquisition. But no one had bothered to Google her. No one had asked questions. To them, it didn't matter who this person was. Because in this room, power had always looked the same, sounded the same, dressed the same, and moved in the same circles. So they waited. Comfortable, confident, arrogant. The kind of arrogance that only comes from thinking the game is rigged permanently in your favor. Light conversation drifted into careless mockery. A few joked about cleaning house. Someone made a dismissive remark about trimming the diversity budget. Laughter followed sharp and low. But beneath that table, their foundation was already cracking. Because while they mocked the unknown was preparing to dismantle them. Downstairs, strategy was already in motion. The elevator was rising. The ownership had shifted, and everything they thought was secure was already being restructured without their permission. Then, the room stilled. The click of the conference line, the sound of their hierarchy crumbling. What followed wasn't noise. It was silence. The kind that presses against the chest. The kind that signals a reckoning. And when the doors opened, she didn't enter alone. Jordan stepped in with a quiet that silenced the entire room. Behind her, legal teams rolled in with boxes of signed documents. Her assistant, calm and meticulous, placed everything in perfect order. 2 senior acquisition attorneys followed, nodding silently. Every step was choreographed. Every detail, lethal. This wasn't an introduction. It was a takeover. The receptionist who had dismissed her, escorted off the premises the moment Jordan confirmed her arrival through a private executive-only elevator, the one the front desk didn't even know existed. Inside the boardroom, chairs shifted uncomfortably. Some executives stood. Others sat frozen. Every smug grin was gone. Every joke erased. What they saw now wasn't an investor. It was the storm they never expected to answer for. Jordan moved with composure, placing a folder at the center of the table. Inside it, names, dates, actions, consequences. No bluffs. No threats. Just facts. Terminations. Replacements. Restructures. Signed. Stamped. Executed. 10 minutes. That's all it took to dismantle an empire built on exclusion. 10 minutes to flip the hierarchy on its head. 10 minutes from dismissal to dominance. The news broke before lunch. Every outlet ran with the headline. Black female CEO executes historic corporate takeover, fires entire board in 10 minutes. Inside the company, morale surged like electricity. Employees whispered her name in awe. Long-ignored departments began receiving new budgets. HR protocols were rewritten. Change wasn't just promised, it was already happening. And the receptionist? She filed a complaint for wrongful termination, citing confusion and poor communication. But lobby footage, staff witness accounts, and internal call logs told a different story. She wasn't dismissed for one mistake. She was dismissed for systemic behavior the company could no longer afford. Jordan didn't retaliate. She didn't gloat. She simply moved forward with precision. Because for her, justice wasn't a performance. It was a responsibility. As she exited the boardroom that afternoon, the new leadership behind her, the final contracts signed and sealed, One of the executives, pale, shaking, called out in desperation. But she didn't slow her pace. She didn't look back. Because when you've earned your power in silence, you don't owe noise to anyone. They thought she was a nobody. But in 10 calculated minutes, she became their boss. Power doesn't shout. It arrives. Respect isn't given to those who look the part. It's owed to those who earned it when no one was watching. If this story moved, you don't just scroll. Subscribe! Because every story we tell peels back the curtain on what power really looks like and reveals the truth about who's always underestimated until it's too late. And if you think this was wild, wait till you hear about the black engineer banned from her own plane launch, only for the flight to be grounded and the world to hear her name. You're not ready for what happens next.